This video will cover section 5.3, only the portion on Cramer's rule. Now Cramer's rule, we're only going to look at Cramer's rule for two equations and two variables. So this is a third way we can solve a system of equations. Remember, we did two equations and two variables, and we solved by substitution and also by elimination. So Cramer's rule is a third way that we can solve a system of equations. And so when you're given the system, here's your first equation, a sub 1x plus b sub 1y equals c sub 1, and then a sub 2x plus b sub 2y equals c sub 2. So a, b, and c are your numbers. So a1, b1 are your coefficients along with a2 and b2, and c1 is your constant at the end. Now we're going to find some determinants of 2 by 2 matrices. So we're going to take these equations and we're going to set them up, find the determinants of them, and then use that to solve for x and y. Now when you set up the determinant known as d, if it equals 0, all right, then Cramer's rule doesn't apply. Okay, so we can't use Cramer's rule if that happens. All right, and if d is 0, that means the system is inconsistent or has infinitely many solutions, meaning no solution that works for both, or there is every, we could fill in whatever we wanted to. There are infinitely many solutions. So we're going to evaluate d first, because if it's 0, we don't need to proceed any further. All right, to find d, we're going to use a1, b1, a2, b2, and then find the determinant by multiplying, remember, diagonally. a1 times b2 minus b1 times a2, just like when we were finding the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrices. Alright, so let's look at the first example here and determine what a1, b1, a2, and b2 are, and make sure that our d does not equal 0, so that we'll know if we need to proceed any further or not. Alright, so in this, a1 is 4, and b1 is 3, and then a2 is 1, and there, and then b sub 2 is negative 2. So if it has a minus sign in front of it, don't leave that off. Okay? Now, eventually we're going to need C1 and C2, so I'm going to go ahead and write those down, just in the case we need them. So C1 is 2 and C sub 2 is 5. Alright, we're going to begin by finding D. D is A1, B1, A2, B2. So I'm simply going to put in 4, 3, 1, negative 2. Then I'll say multiply diagonally, 4 times negative 2 minus 3 times 1. That'll be negative 8 minus 3, which is negative 11. Alright, so since we did not get 0 for D, we can proceed further. Now, to find the x value of the solution, we're going to find d sub x, and we're going to divide it by d. D sub x is found by finding the determinant of C1, B1, C2, B2. So the key to remember these is just to remember the order, alright, which letter is going to come first, or which letters are included inside. So if I'm looking for d sub x, alright, d sub x is C1, B1. So C1 is 2 and B1 is 3. Then C2 is 5, B2 is negative 2. Then I'm going to multiply diagonally, 2 times negative 2, and subtract from that 3 times 5. So I'll have negative 4 minus 15 will be negative 19. Alright, then I'm going to find, I can go ahead and find the x coordinate now if I want to. So I'll take d sub x, and I'm going to divide it by d. We found d sub x to be negative 19 and d to be negative 11. So when I divide these two, I get positive 19 over 11. Negative divided by negative makes positive. So this is the x coordinate of my solution. Now to find y, Alright, d sub y comes from filling in a1, c1, and a2, c2. Finding the determinant. So a1 is 4, c1 is 2, a2 is 1, c sub 2 is 5. Alright, then we'll say 4 times 5 minus 2 times 1. That'll be 20 minus 2, which is 18. Alright, so now that we know d sub y, we can find the y coordinate, and that comes from taking d sub y and dividing it by d. So d sub y we said is 18, d is negative 11, and so that'll just be negative 18 over 11 for y. So our solution will be 19/11 for the x and negative 18/11 for the y. Now I can use my calculator and verify that my answer is correct, which I highly recommend that you do. So using my calculator, I'm going to store the values 19/11 in x and the value negative 18/11. I'm going to store that in y. Alright, then all I need to do is come up here to my original equations and type them in. So 4x plus 3y, and I should get 2. Alright, I do, that's good. X minus 2y, I should get 5, and I do. So since these work out correctly and they match what's on my paper, then I know that my solution, 19/11 and negative 18/11 for x and y, is correct. Alright, so let's try another. Alright, so first I want to look for d. Alright, so remember d is a1, b1, a sub 2, b sub 2. Alright, so a1 will be 4, b sub 1 will be negative 1, a sub 2 will be 2, and b sub 2 will be 3. I'm going to multiply those out. 4 times 3 minus 2 times negative 1 will be 12 plus 2, which is 14. Then I'll find d sub x. Since this d does not equal 0, I can continue on. Alright, d sub x is c sub 1, b sub 1. So c sub 1 is 0, b sub 1 is negative 1, c sub 2 is 14, and b sub 2 is 3. Alright, I'll multiply diagonally. 3 times 0, make sure that's clear, 14, minus 14 times negative 1 becomes 0 plus 14, which is 14. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and find d sub y. Alright, d sub y, remember, is in the first row a1, c1. So a1 is 4, c1 is 0, and then the bottom row, or the second row, is a2, c2. a2 is 2, c2 is 14. Then I'll multiply diagonally. 4 times 14 minus 2 times 0, and that gives me 56. Alright, so now I want to find my x and y coordinates. So for the x coordinate, I take d sub x and I divide it by d. So d sub x is 14, d is 14, giving me an x value of 1. Y will be d sub y, 56, divided by d, which is 14, and 56 divided by 14 is 4. So that gives me a solution to this problem, sideways here, of 1, 4. Alright, now I can check my answer using my calculator. Alright, and so in place of x, I'm going to put 1, so 1 store in x, 4 store in y. Then I'm going to type in 4x minus y and verify that I get 0. I do, so that's good. 2x plus 3y and verify that I get 14. And I do, so I know that my solution, 1, 4, is the correct answer.